fact that lobbying is done is not a new thing, but lobbying, how it's done and what is it for. If it's an open chamber like this, if 10 people get up and give an idea about an industry, whether it's irrigation or electricity department or whatever it is, if those ideas come from an open house, policymakers are in discussion with you, officers are there, it's done openly and transparently, that's a positive way of doing things. If it's done with individuals in closed rooms without any transparency or openness, then that leads to complications, allegations and uncomfortable sense of working. So the more open we are, the better it is. Therefore I urge all of you, especially the ones who are just getting into the business side of it, please be open about what you want us to effect changes about. If there are some policy issues, if there are some regulation issues, if there are some things that you want our help with. And sometimes, like I said earlier, it's the small things that make all the difference. So if you feel that in any shape or form, various ministries, departments, government agencies can give any assistance in supporting you, ideas to handhold, ideas that if you do well, if the state does well, if the economy does well, automatically the government does well. It can't be that a government can perform on its own without the active participation of all sectors of our society. It can't be that a company can make lots and lots of profit by not doing enough for the communities around it. The whole concept of CSR, it was introduced a few years ago when we were in government in New Delhi. I faced a lot of flack for introducing CSR. They said this is the taxation and you should just openly say you're taxing. Why are you saying it's voluntary? How can we have a factory or a large business house conducting its business and all around you see deprivation, poverty, undernourished kids, and where will you get people to work for you if you don't have a community that is developed on equal terms? Who will you sell to if you don't have people who have the economic potential to buy our goods and services? So it has to be a wholesome approach of how we develop our society, our state and our country. This concept of giving back is a great concept. And to be a good corporate citizen, you don't have to spend lakhs and crores of rupees. If you can spare the time, if you can show consciousness, if you show that warmth and affection to people that you work with and you work around with, that's more than enough. And I think this sort of thinking is required by people of a younger generation. I'm not saying that the ones who are older to all of you don't have that in their heart. And I'm very proud to say Rajasthan, the people who have gone to do businesses all over India, in fact all over the world, have made a great name for themselves because they give back a lot. They give back to societies. कितने गांव में शिकावटी में जहाँ जाता हूँ मैं, झुंझुनू में, चूरू में, सीकर में, wherever I go, हर गांव में कुछ ना कुछ किसी ने धर्मशाला बनाई है, स्कूल बनाया है, और कुछ लोग करते हैं पारिवारिक दृष्टि से. लेकिन ज्यादातर लोग करते हैं कि मेरे गांव में जो लोग रहते हैं, मेरे शहर के कस्बे में, वहां पर कुछ अंश में उन लोगों के जीवन को बेहतर करने के लिए कर सकूं. और ये निस्वार्थ भावना से होता है. इट इज नॉट डन कि मैं कुछ करूंगा फिर मुझे कुछ मिलेगा. वो फीलिंग होती नहीं है. और इसलिए ये इस ग्रेट ट्रेडिशन को बनाए रखने के लिए आप सब लोगों को भी उस उदाहरण से सीख लेनी चाहिए. एज फार एज वी आर कंसर्न, I think the learnings that you are supposed to have, it can be in closed room discussions like this. अभी मुझे बता रहे थे कि आपका discussion इससे पहले भी हुआ था. Discussion से हो सकता है. And you must also share experiences of one another. Experiences both of success and failure. It can't be that you keep talking in a table कि मेरा EBITDA इतना था, मेरा टर्म इतना हो गया, मैंने इतना कर दिया, मैं जहाँ जाता हूँ वहाँ पे रास्ते खुलते रहते हैं. You must also talk about some of the failures because you learn most from failures that happened A to your life and B to other people. And it will be generous on your part to share those not so happy experiences with other people. हम लोग नेता बहुत करते हैं आपस में, जो हमारा नाकामयाबियां होती हैं उसके बारे में बहुत शेयर करते हैं कि हमने ये नहीं किया इसलिए ऐसा हुआ, वो करते तो और बेहतर होता. The reason मैं आपको इसलिए बता रहा हूँ because this is a sort of a community that we developed here. And young Indians, as part of CII, you have a long way to go. You have I don't know how many decades, God willing at least 3 or 4, 5 decades. I don't know, अभी I think who was saying आप मेरे ख्याल साहू जी बोल रहे थे या श्रेयान बोल रहे थे 21 से 40. तो हम तो कोई उसमें फिट होने वाला है नहीं. None of us are in that category. I don't know. Both my colleagues in the assembly may or may not be, but I'm certainly not. And the median Well, great, excellent. We have one person at least who's fitting that category, but the median age in India is 27. And our concept of young is like a chewing gum, वो stretch होता ही रहता है. I've seen in politics it's much more apparent than in businesses. But it's a mindset. If you're 41, 39, it doesn't make a difference. The fact that you're talking, discussing, deliberating your ideas, your experiences, your motivations, your road ahead with friends and families and peers today, it's a great learning experience. And I think there are many chapters such as the one that you're having today that have really come up in all parts of the country. ये concept पहले था नहीं. आज से 25-30 साल पहले, it was a very, very exclusive group of people who are unwilling to share, unwilling to open up. But I think the second generation of entrepreneurs and businesses, people who run those businesses, are far more open-minded. I think the exposure has helped, the traveling across the country, across the world has helped. So it's a very good concept to move together as a community. And on the way, you help each other, you help others. That's the best way. But the learnings must come not just from the rooms and conference hotels. Learnings आती है बाहर जाकर. जितना ज़्यादा आप लोग travel करेंगे अपने काम के अलावा भी, मैं कई बार इस बात को बोलता हूँ that you learn the most from people who are least like you. जो आपके जैसा बिजनेस करते हैं, आपके साथ खाना खाते हैं, आपके साथ बैठते हैं, उनसे आप बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं सीख सकते. The people who are least like you, जो आपकी तरह दिखते नहीं, आपकी तरह बोलते नहीं, आपकी तरह काम नहीं करते हैं, कुछ और करते हैं. I think the most learnings happen from people who are least like you. Therefore, try and meet people who are outside your safety net, your comfort zone. जितना ज़्यादा आप लोगों से exposure होगा, मुलाकात होगी, you will become a much richer person in terms of your experiences and exposures. That's just my advice to anyone who cares to listen. That the more you talk to people who are not in the same area of work or field, you learn much more. And then when you come back and share those experiences, everybody is better informed about what you have to say. So that's just a few thoughts I had about how I think all of you should approach this chapter. I want to thank Jaideep Ahuja ji, who's relentlessly been following up with me to come for this program. मैं कल मल्लापुरम में था, केरला में. अब लोकसभा के चुनाव आ गए हैं तो हमारी मीटिंग्स अब बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गई हैं. तो मल्लापुरम से कैलिकट, कैलिकट से कोचिन, कोचिन से जयपुर, मैं 9 घंटे जहाज में बैठ के आया हूँ पूरा करके, so that I could be here because there was a change of date earlier on. So thank you, Jaideep, for following up with me so diligently. But thank all of you really for coming here today and inviting me and Rohit Boraji and of course Divya ji for this event. I don't know if I'll be here for any longer than the session will go on for, but I just want to in the end put this out in front of you that as a association, as individuals, I have met some of you earlier previously on a one-to-one basis. Anything you feel that we can do as government, please feel free to come and talk to us, to discuss. If you're too busy, just call on the phone. But anything we can do as a facilitator, because I think the role of the government is not just policy making. That's the easy part. It's how to handhold and see it to success. Just drafting a policy, putting on a website is not really the job. As a politician, as a member of the government, it's really our responsibility to see how we can smoothen the way. We can't do the work for you, we can't invest for you, but we can certainly make things much more easier for you in terms of all the roadblocks that you might face. And I keep saying, it's the small things that bother people a lot. So anything we can do as a government, please feel free to approach us, talk to us, write, phone, meet anytime. My office, all of us are always open to meet you. And if you have no work, if you have nothing to say, nothing to ask for, come for a cup of tea or call us for a cup of coffee. So this is no better way than keeping things started. Thank you very much. And wish you all the best for the future. May your path be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was a very inspirational talk for all of us. And it's good to know, as a young Indian, that the government is thinking or is very open to a dialogue in society, and we look to be a part of this dialogue as young Indians and as individuals. So, with your permission, we'd like to open the house for some questions. And since I have the mic, I would like the privilege of asking the first couple of questions. At the very start, sir, you spoke about policies not making an impact on the ground, the previous government in specific. So, one problem that really stands out to me is the problem of unemployment of youth. We see that all across us. We see that in sheer numbers, the extent of the problem. And on top of that, despite significant efforts by the government on such a number of skilling initiatives, we see that there is very little impact on the ground. How do you propose to attack this problem? How do you propose to solve it going ahead?
See, there are a few things, and I think the topmost thing that must and should bother all of us is the lack of jobs. There are two ways of looking at it. One, I think, is that there are fewer jobs available. That's unemployment. But there's another problem of underemployment. You know, the railways had a job vacancy for, I think, 1 lakh, 2 lakh job vacancies. 1,80,000 and मेरे ख्याल कितने करोड़ लोगों ने apply किया उसके लिए. And that's for a 4th grade job. So when you have underemployment, people who are highly skilled or educated with a doctorate degree or a double master's degree are still applying for a job which is a grade 4 job. It shows to you, it tells you that there is underemployment, which is never captured in any data. All the data that I read is job created, people employed. Now, we also have to care that people and families have invested a lot of money and time and effort to educate their boys and girls to a level of graduate or postgraduate degree. Are their aspirations being fulfilled? And I did criticize so much about the policy. I criticized the fact that the last 5 years, the economy has grown, even though the numbers are questionable. Right? I mean, they've changed the base rate. So calculate GDP, it's 7 point something, but as we all know, there's a change in the way you calculate GDP. But I have yet to see the growth on the ground. When a country the size of India, $2 trillion economy, growing at 7%, you can see growth. You can see people going from 2 shifts to 3 shifts. I don't know of a single factory that has had 3 shifts mein kaam kara rahe. People are laying off. People are hedging their bets. People are not hiring anymore. People are not promoting anymore. There are no bonuses and wages. So I don't see that growth on the ground. It may be a numerical data, which is fine. I don't want to question everything the government says, but it's a fact that jobs are very scarce. And the programs, this Skill India program, etc., it's allocation of funds. One NGO takes 200 children or young people. There's no follow-up. And I think that's happening because today young people are doing their degrees in philosophy, geography, whatever, biology. But that's not what the corporate sector wants. See, the industry has a lack of people. So NASCOM said that 25% of all engineering graduates, only 25% are employable. So most people are employed, given on-campus training for 3 or 4 months, and only then they're actually given any jobs. So there is no meeting of minds between the academic institutions, the colleges, universities, the curriculum and the syllabus, and between what the employers want, what the companies want. So unless you have courses that make young people employable, giving degrees is not the solution. It is absolutely not possible that I keep teaching young children something in the 80s, 70s, and the job requirement, because today companies are competing with global audiences. You're competing with people around the world. If you don't have the skill sets of delivering for a company, why should a company hire you? I have nothing against philosophy, but if you have a double MBA in philosophy, or an arts graduate, or science which is outdated, you will never be able to compete as an individual employed in a company, and the company will then suffer. And companies don't want to have people who are not going to show them talent. Therefore, that which I'm trying to do in Rajasthan as quickly as possible, that the education system, the diplomas, courses must be in alignment with what the corporate sector wants. One. Second, you have to look at sectors. Now, employment generation wali sectors, Rajasthan, whether it's textiles, mining, you have to shift people from the farmland to the shop floor. I don't think it's possible to miss the curve. You can't be a family in a rural area working on the field and suddenly you become like a programmer or something. You have to move through the curve. And second generation of people in rural hinterland, 65% of Indians are working on the land, contributing 13% of GDP. Huge mismatch. But young people are there. They are getting the education. A should be right kind of education. And government, of course, can't give jobs to everybody. But government can certainly create an ecosystem where job creation can take place. You encourage sectors and employers, employment opportunities to companies, which give guarantees that we will give these many jobs. Today with automation and AI and competitions, robotics is very difficult to encourage entrepreneurs to give jobs to people because people are trying to move into cost cutting, cost savings, and more sophisticated ways of tackling this. I think it has to be tackled twofold. One, make the young people more employable, and B, invest in sectors that are going to give a larger number of people employment opportunities. It doesn't happen very quickly, but like I said, Sarkar ke shuru mein, if you start doing things, you will see results in 2 or 3 years. You wake up on the 4th year of your government and then announce policies. It will happen just like it happened in the central government in the last 5 years.
Thank you, sir. It's very heartening to know that you have a focus on the industries and on the growth of the businesses. On that point, sir, I would also like to ask about the Companies Act 2013. As a business owner, I see that it is throwing up a lot of challenges for business owners, and it has become a cause of concern. And notwithstanding the CSR part, I don't think really that people are objecting to that. As the Act was drafted largely under your leadership, sir, I put to you whether you're satisfied with the outcomes as they are today. And if not, then is there any course correction on the horizon, sir?
Okay, now that you've asked me, I'll explain to you in 5 minutes the whole story. The company law made before 2013 was 94 years old before that. Okay. There was no concept of e-commerce, digitization, online trading, nothing. 90 years ago, Angrezon se pehle, there was a company law. And we were still going around doing our business with the same company law. Now the new act, when it was drafted, I think only Devraji or Mr. Prabhat Kohli were ministers at that time. So new act was again drafted, given to the cabinet. The cabinet approved the act as did the draft act. And there was a reshuffle in the cabinet. So I was made Minister of Corporate Affairs, and when I went to my table, so gave me उसमें 1500 clauses. 1500. It was this big, weighed about 5 kilos. So this is the new Companies Act. And क्या करना है? कहते इसको पार्लियामेंट में पास करना है. Now, once the act is approved by the cabinet, even if you change a comma, it has to go back again to a standing committee, then back again to cabinet, and then back again to me. So it has been stuck for 11 years. There were 4 ministers before me who had very smartly sat on it and nothing had happened. But I was given the act. Now, it is not a perfect act. Okay, I'll be honest. But I thought in the rules, you can make small changes, but we had very limited time, 8-9 months left. And I thought we must at least get started. Pass the act, make amendments later on, because it's better than a 94-year-old act. Whatever shortcomings now, hota kya hai, when the committee was formed. Please no committee, 20 people in the committee. I had 18 people from the industry and only 2 people from the government to give suggestions. None of the 18 people ever said to me anything about making any changes. Bahut acha, bahut acha. So I said, fine, if you know, I had FICCI, I had CII, I had ASSOCHAM, I had everybody there on the thing for a few months. I said, give me suggestions. Put a not an ideal act, but it was a whole lot better than what he had earlier. So now I think they're making amendments to it, and with the rules, you can always amend that. So it's a great starting point. In fact, for that Companies Act, we had studied acts of UK, Canada, most Western European countries. So we incorporated a lot of the new stuff. But it's very easy post to say this was not ideal. But for 90 days, nobody came forward and told me that this is what we should do. I'm not pointing fingers. What I'm saying is that I was given the act as it was and to get passed in Parliament, and which I did. Quite happy. I was quite proud that the act started a new 1% company thing. I forget now, 5 years away, but I know that there were very new initiatives we started off for entrepreneurs, for 1% company, and in fact some of the old regulations which were absolutely outdated, those we had to get rid of. So it is a new beginning, a new start. But I'm sure in 2019 when we form the government again, we'll try and do a better job.
Thank you, sir. So I'll open the house for questions. Can I ask so always? I see Abhinav. Can I ask first question? Take about
Good evening, sir. Really happy to see such a young audience, young team on the dais. So this is a question, Sachinji, towards you. the Congress government came into power, it's a welcome change to the state, and we hope to see good things happen in the state. But one thing as industry, one thing which came to my mind was when we have this scheme of getting farmer loans waived off, which globally is not taken in a positive spirit because how it's going to impact the society in the long run is not very clear to us. So as industrialists, as entrepreneurs, we would like to know what is the broader picture to this. So how is this going to carry out?
I've been asked this question very kindly for also. Let me put things in perspective. You said this has not been done anywhere else in the world, correct?
No, it's perceived as not a very positive policy.
By who? By the big press. Business Standard, Financial Express, Economic Times. But look at the reality. You're right, I don't hear of farm loan waivers in any other part of the world because in any other part of the world, I haven't heard of thousands of farmers committing suicide. Even in sub-Saharan Africa, we don't hear news items of farmers killing themselves. Right? A dramatic situation needs dramatic steps. It is not the panacea for all ills of the farming community. That I have said this, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has said this, and we all know this. But it gives them a starting point, a clean slate. Farmers, and I made this point while I was doing my remarks, you can't have an agro-business, you can't have an industry where you have people around in villages every day drinking poison and hanging themselves and killing themselves. Why? 2 lakh, 5 lakh, 6 lakh, 10 lakh ka kisne loan liya. He or she can't be paid back and they kill themselves. I don't mind me saying this, but is there any business house or a director or a CEO or a chairman of a company who's taken that much of a loan and has taken his or her life because he can't pay it back? You go bankruptcy law, you file Chapter 11 in the US, you abhi to naya law aa gaya. There are 100 ways. Companies go bust, but individuals remain reasonably afloat. It doesn't happen for the farming community. Now, whether it makes economic sense, and whether it's prudent, whether it's financially beneficial for the entire banking sector, etc., those questions can be answered. The government cannot just ideally stand by and watch people kill themselves. Now you say, ये बहुत पहले से चल रहा है, इसको ठीक क्यों नहीं किया? It's a systematic failure. But at this time, to stop the, when you're shot in the stomach, you don't want to give vitamins, You have to first stop the bleeding. You have to make sure that the person is able to survive. And then you get them back on the recovery track. So I take your point that it has a lot more aspects to it than just loan favor, waive off kar do. It has to be, investment, fertilizers, access to market, cold chain, storage, adequate MSP, etc. But those are all later on. Right now we felt that we had to do this because, don't forget, farmers take their lives because they lose hope. See, once anybody goes bankrupt, you know that there are friends, there are family, I'll go to, kya bolte hain usko? Restructuring of loans, whatever it's called, everybody. You go to NFB and NCLT, you go to restructuring of bank finances and BIFR. So there are 100 ways to know that ये alternate है. What does a poor farmer have? 5 बच्चे हैं, 2 बीघा जमीन है, 2 लाख का कर्ज है, रोज कुड़की के आधार पे कर रहे हैं. So understand that mindset, and what happens is when the farmers feel कि सरकार ने किया है, they have hope. So imagine now people who are on the verge of killing themselves. At least they know if we can sustain ourselves, we manage to now get by in this tough time, and we'll go up, right? So I don't think we should make a pure economic argument. Yes, government was short of funds. Sundar ji ने announce किया था 8,000 crore, she did only 2,000. तो वो 6,000 crore भी हम लोगों को कर रहे हैं. Totally 19,500 crores is what the government has taken ownership of helping the farming community. But I can assure you that this is not the only step. It will be wrong to say, let the crisis escalate. हर 4-5 साल में I'll do farm labor. That's the wrong way of looking at it. But right now, given the conditions in this part of the country, we have to do this and make sure we systematically improve their lives and their, it has to be, forget profitable, at least sustainable. Because landholdings are so small. So we'll have to do work on many fronts to get to that point.
Thank you, sir. I see Vivek. Can we have a mic there?
Good evening, sir. it's a pleasure to hear you. And I must say, Joe, I met you a few days before election also, and after election I'm meeting you, as in hearing you. But आपका statement and your structure is just the same. You're always inviting industry to come up and see the policies, which is unlike a lot of politicians. So my question is related to that. आप सब political families हैं, sir. So how difficult is it, or how easy is it to be here, or coming from the political background and still not?
मैं 15 दिन पहले बोल चुका हूँ कि मेरे परिवार से कोई चुनाव नहीं लड़ेगा लोकसभा इलेक्शंस में. Just making a point. I know what you're trying to say. Your question is how difficult it is to be from political family and then come here.
How easy?
How easy? Changes the whole texture of the question. How difficult it is, how easy it is. So, first of all, politics is not easy at all. Just as no other businesses, having a startup, starting a fund, starting a factory is never easy. Whether you are from first generation, fourth generation, it's always challenging. But politics, I think, is far more challenging because the uncertainties are beyond calculations. As you very well know, anything can happen. So it's very uncertain, it's very unstable. But the only thing I believe in is that if you have your priorities, you have some convictions, you have some principles that you live by, generally, you'll be okay. You will win, you will lose, you will be in government, you will be out of government, but that should not really dictate how you are as a person. If you keep changing your stand, if you keep changing your attitude and your behavior and your way of thinking with each victory and loss, then I don't think you are doing justice to the profession. So if you are really largely principled, I won't say 100% because it's not possible, but largely you are, have one clear traction and one way to go, then you will actually overcome those challenges. Everybody